Now that we've defined and explored consumer surplus and producer surplus, we can talk about the efficiency of competitive markets. So there are two different ways we can think about the efficiency of markets. First, a market is efficient if all the trades take place where the marginal benefit exceeds the marginal cost, and then no other trades take place. So in this case, each of the trades taking place is where the marginal benefit exceeds the marginal cost. So you're gaining more than the cost of actually producing these goods. The second is that the market is efficient if it maximizes the sum of consumer and producer surplus, so the total net benefit to consumers and firms. We can also call this the economic surplus. So the total surplus in the economy, the economic surplus, will be maximized when the market is efficient. And we'll explore these more in this section. So first, we'll look at a competitive market equilibrium, how the marginal benefit equals the marginal cost, and how marginal benefit only equals marginal cost at the competitive market equilibrium. So remember, a demand curve describes the marginal benefit of each additional unit that's purchased by consumers, whereas the supply curve represents the marginal cost of production for producers. So let's say in this market, still looking at the tea market, the equilibrium price is $2. And at the equilibrium price at $2, where the supply and the demand curves cross, the quantity traded will be 15,000 cups per day. At this point, the marginal benefit for consumers, that point on the demand curve, is $2. Also, the marginal cost for producers at that quantity is $2. So at that point, the marginal benefit equals the marginal cost, and that's our equilibrium. Now let's suppose that this isn't the case. Marginal benefit does not equal marginal cost. So let's say firms produce 14,000 cups of coffee per day, so 1,000 less than the equilibrium. At this point, the marginal benefit is going to be $2.20. So at that point, that 14,000 units per day, we trace that up to the demand curve, the marginal benefit is going to be equal to $2.20. Whereas at 14,000 cups, the marginal cost to producers is only $1.80. So at this point, it only costs firms $1.80 to produce another cup of tea, but consumers get the benefit of $2.20. So because the marginal benefit is greater than the marginal cost, firms will be willing and consumers will be willing to trade at this price. So they're going to increase production until the marginal benefit equals the marginal cost. So until, in this case, $2. Now, what happens if the quantity produced is too high? So let's say that firms produce 16,000 cups of coffee per day. The marginal benefit to consumers is where that quantity crosses the demand curve. So that's going to be at $1.80. The marginal cost to firms to produce 16,000 units is going to be $2.20. So therefore, economic output is going to be inefficiently high. We're producing more cups of tea than consumers value at that price. So only at the competitive equilibrium is the last unit valued by consumers and producers equally, or as we call economic efficiency. Every trade that can take place at that value does take place, where consumers and producers are both willing and able to sell at $2. But not only can we use the idea of marginal benefits and marginal cost for a competitive market equilibrium, we can also use the ideas of economic surplus, so consumer and producer surplus. So this figure on the right, it shows the economic surplus, the sum of producer and consumer surplus in the market for tea. Again, the equilibrium price is going to be $2 per cup, and the equilibrium quantity at this price is going to be 15,000 cups per day. The consumer surplus is the difference between the demand curve and the price, whereas the producer surplus is going to be the difference between the price and the supply curve. So now, at the competitive equilibrium quantity, the economic surplus is going to be maximized. The consumer surplus and the producer surplus is going to be as large as possible. So both of our concepts of economic efficiency result in the same level of output. So let's see what happens to producer and consumer surplus when the market's not in equilibrium. So using the figure on the right, when the market is in equilibrium, the price is equal to $2, And at that price, the quantity traded is going to be 15,000 cups per day. The consumer surplus is going to be the difference between the demand curve and the price that's being traded. So it'll be areas A, B, and C. And the producer surplus is going to be the difference between the price and the supply curve. So that'll be areas D and E. Well, let's suppose the market's knocked out of equilibrium. So the price being traded is $2.20, and at that price, there will be 14,000 cups of tea being bought and sold. So at this new higher price, this non-equilibrium price, the consumer surplus is going to fall to the area A, the difference between the new price and the demand curve. Now the producer surplus is going to be areas B and D. So it'll be the difference between the new price and the supply curve for all the quantities that are being traded. Now areas C and E, those represent the trades that are not taking place because the market's out of equilibrium. So in this case, there's 1,000 cups of tea that are not being traded per day. So because these trades are not taking place, we call this the dead weight loss. This is a loss to society. There's potential trades that could have taken place that aren't taking place because we've moved out of equilibrium. So dead weight loss can be thought of as the amount of inefficiency in a market. In a competitive market equilibrium, the dead weight loss is going to be zero. There's going to be no dead weight loss because all the trades that could take place that are going to make people better off will take place. But when we're not in equilibrium, there are potential trades that could take place that would make both parties better off. These trades that don't take place are going to be the dead weight loss. So now that we've shown our two ideas of economic efficiency coincide, we were able to define economic efficiency. So economic efficiency is the market outcome in which the marginal benefit to consumers of the last unit produced is equal to the marginal cost of production, and in which the sum of consumer surplus and producer surplus is at a maximum. So our definition of economic efficiency uses both the idea of marginal benefit and marginal cost and the consumer surplus and producer surplus.